Dear ladies and gentlemen, welcome again to the analysis of YOLENO TV. I'm glad you're well from wherever you're watching this channel. Now, I have come across a video from EKURU AUKOT. Now, EKURU AUKOT in this video appeared to be confused, appeared to be supporting Ruto, appeared to be denouncing Ruto's moves, appeared to be supporting Raila, again appeared to be denouncing Raila. So EKURU AUKOT in this video appeared to be a confused leader. But by the way, I've always regarded EKURU AUKOT as a leader who is not serious. I have reasons to back my observation of EKURU AUKOT, but before I get deep into that observation, there is a video that I've come across, and EKURU AUKOT was talking about this bipartisan issue, and he was saying that there is no need for a bipartisan talk because this is just like a BBI being brought from the back doors. EKURU AUKOT, in a separate talk, said that IEBC could have done injustice, and at the same time is fell short of saying IEBC performed exemplary. Then there's another part, it says that Kenya Kwanza won this, and then there's another part, it says that Kenya Kwanza could have rigged. So in this video, EKURU AUKOT appeared to be confused. So I want us to go straight into this video. And first of all, there's a part where EKURU AUKOT talks about personal interest. And let's listen into this video.
What I'm seeing here is a manufactured or a procured bipartisan conversation by the same people who for the longest time have come to believe that Kenya is their chattel, Kenya is their shamba, they have got the title deed to this country, and that the rest of us are just curious onlookers. I'm seeing another BBI in the making that's going to waste taxpayers' money to discuss issues that have already been established to be the problem in this country. As Prof has heavily cited, amongst other reports, we have got the Truth and Justice Reconciliation Commission, which has been shelved. We have the Ndungu Commission, we have the Akiumi report, we have got the Krigler, we have got the Philip Waki reports. If these reports were to be implemented, we don't need another bipartisan conversation in this country. The only problem in this country is actually the kind of politicians that we've had for the last 20 plus years. They are recycled, they are dead on ideas, and all they do is to look at their own personal interest. On the question of the IEBC, and to be honest, some of us have had our reservations, just as and I, as you know, the way we were mistreated last year in the nomination process. We've had our own misgivings about the IEBC. But when it is zeroed down to the idea of commissioners only, remember IEBC as a secretariat, well-funded. Commissioners don't count votes. These people do not even read the decisions of the court. For example, in the minor Kiai decision of the Supreme Court, it confirmed that elections, the last elections are the final results in an election are at the polling station. So they didn't bother to look at, for example, how they fared in the polling station, but instead they come to Nairobi, a national tallying center, where those final results are being announced, and now they're using that as an excuse to talk about this bipartisan approach. You see, this is increasingly becoming the long con. I'm taking issue with the premise within which this so-called bipartisan approach, which we are now rejecting, how that bipartisan approach was born. It started with the issue of the fact that an election was stolen. You know, it is very laughable because the person who was spearheading this invoked the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court, and therefore he accepted the idea of the rule of law. They even said that should the Supreme Court make a decision, we'll accept. Now, where then did we begin to talk about a stolen election? That is a bygone. And premising this on the issue of commissioners is actually an excuse. As a matter of fact, our proposal, and we will sit down together with the Ugatuzi bill, we will also bring back the Punguza Mizigo bill, there is the Fungamano bill. We'll sit down together and synchronize our constitutional proposal, because partly we believe we are putting too much premium on this so-called IEBC and the commissioners. As a matter of fact, the debate we are having is, one, disband the IEBC, especially the commission, or two, alternatively, make it part-time. There are serious institutions in this country, including our universities, that are actually run by councils who are not permanent. There are parastatals in this country, economic, that actually generate a lot of revenue, that are run by board of directors who are not permanent. Already we have gone that route of ESCC, where now commissioners are permanent. What's so special about IEBC? The problem with IEBC is the political class that wants to control. You cannot be a player and then you also want to choose the referee or your kind of referee. If they truly want to make this a conversation that is truly accommodates all Kenyans, then let all the political parties sit in the interviewing panel. Not to nominate, to interview who will be commissioners. So I think I'll keep it in short by saying that this country, like Prof has said, belongs to all of us in equal measure. And I think the idea that Kenya is now being described in the context of one or two individuals, for me, it's insulting to our intelligence as a people. You know, we are 50 plus million Kenyans, and also this idea of the government trying to say that I'm going to reward people who stood by me, it's a fallacy. Because even assuming Ruto got 7.2 million, yeah, and Raila got 6.9 million, so how is William Ruto's government going to reward the 7.2 million in a government jobs? So the idea that I'm going to reward only people who stood by me, then he's saying, you people who voted for me, the 7 point maybe 9 whatever million, it don't matter to me. I just used you guys as a stepping stone. That's the language you're getting. I think we need a totally different approach. And one of our clarion calls here today is that anybody out there who is thinking alternative, who is thinking Solomonic, as Prof has said, you need to join this forum. We are going to initiate more regular conversations, and we have to bring like-minded Kenyans together. And let's not shy from saying we have a useless parliament. You know, like now people are saying, I'm talking about the cost of living. One of the reasons that cost of living went up, I don't know whether you people remember, is the VAT on petroleum. Now, petroleum as energy drives the economy. And who voted for that bill? All these people who are now telling us, let's go bipartisan. It's complete con, and I think it's nonsensical of them. If they want another conversation, then let's go to the people, not to go to parliament that has already failed. As a matter of fact, we think that parliament should be cut down to maximum of 47 or 100.
So now from the video, there is that part where EKURU AUKOT talks about personal interest, that there are people who have their own interest. Well, I know for sure that EKURU AUKOT is trying to refer to Raila Amolo Odinga. Of course, if you go by the history, EKURU AUKOT has never supported Raila Amolo Odinga. He has never supported Raila, even though most of the time Raila Amolo Odinga is normally right, but he has never supported. Let's get back to 2017, when the courts had called for a re-election, and EKURU AUKOT spoiled that plan when Raila Amolo Odinga decided to boycott first before IEBC could fix their own issues. So the idea was very simple, that since Raila Amolo Odinga had boycotted, it was up to EKURU AUKOT to also boycott. But EKURU AUKOT shocked many Kenyans at the 11th hour when he decided to be part and parcel of that election, and that spoiled the plans of Raila Amolo Odinga to force IEBC to first of all reform before they could go back to a fresh election as directed by the courts. So EKURU AUKOT cannot talk about personal interest, because many people believe that during that fresh election in 2017, EKURU AUKOT could have received some money so that to make him change his mind and go to the elections without even thinking about the agenda that Raila Amolo Odinga was fighting for, the agenda of reforming IEBC first before going back to the election. So EKURU AUKOT alisaliti opposition na akaingia katika debe na hata hakuna kura alipata. So that was in 2017. So in this video again, EKURU AUKOT talks about him rejecting bipartisan approach because he thinks that bipartisan approach is akin to bringing BBI from the back door. So let's listen into that part where he talks about rejecting bipartisan approach.
What I'm seeing here is a manufactured or a procured bipartisan conversation by the same people who for the longest time have come to believe that Kenya is their chattel, Kenya is their shamba, they have got the title deed to this country, and that the rest of us are just curious onlookers. I'm seeing another BBI in the making that's going to waste taxpayers' money to discuss issues that have already been established.
So from that video again, you've heard it where he says bipartisan approach is not what is needed for this country. It is strange, ladies and gentlemen, because whereas he's talking about rejecting bipartisan approach, he is telling Kenyans to join him in another narrative. What is the difference between this bipartisan approach, which is a narrative that has taken over the discussions in Kenya, and him calling for people to join his own narrative? A narrative which is similar to what is being talked about in this bipartisan approach. So, EKURU AUKOT is basically trying to hijack this narrative for himself. He's trying to make himself relevant. But in the process of trying to make himself relevant, to me, I think EKURU AUKOT is just appearing confused. There is a time I saw in a tweet where EKURU AUKOT has talked about a high cost of living. Mind you, one of the people who supported this Kenya Kwanza government is EKURU AUKOT. So he is not supposed to complain. In fact, he is just like David Mwaure, who also supported the Kenya Kwanza government the moment Chebukati made that pronouncement. So EKURU AUKOT fought Raila Amolo Odinga during this 2022 general election because he didn't like Raila Amolo Odinga. And by the way, he has never liked Raila Amolo Odinga. So that is something that we know for sure, that he has never liked Raila Amolo Odinga. So EKURU AUKOT in that video has talked about a return of BBI from the back. But in the process of talking about a return of BBI, he has himself tried to manufacture another narrative akin to bipartisan approach. So the only thing is that he doesn't want to call his fresh narrative as a bipartisan approach, because he is welcoming people to that narrative, and also the same way that the bipartisan approach, Raila Amolo Odinga was welcoming Kenyans to the debate, so that this debate can be taken over by Kenyans and not only the parliamentarians. So what EKURU AUKOT is trying to manufacture, it is just the same way as the bipartisan approach. There is no difference. The only difference is that EKURU AUKOT is not going to use the name, but is going to choose another name to refer to that narrative. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is what we call a return of sellout leaders. These leaders were asleep. They were in their slumberland. I don't know what has awoken them. Leaders like Mwaure, leaders like EKURU AUKOT, in fact, they're not leaders. I read somewhere within the commentators, one of the commentators told me that these are not leaders, these are jokers. And I agree with that commentator that EKURU AUKOT is also just another joker. Because if you listen to that video, the speech, the remarks he makes in that video, it is just evident that he's not after Raila Amolo Odinga. He doesn't support Raila Amolo Odinga. That makes it hard for him to even support the agenda of Raila Amolo Odinga, despite the fact that all Kenyans are supporting that agenda. The only people who are not supporting the agenda of Raila Amolo Odinga are the Kenya Kwanza people, and they have exposed themselves in a video that was shared from Central Kenya, where William Ruto had gone there to commission a dam. So that's where again this debate of bipartisan approach was hit a huge blow, because the Kenya Kwanza people told Raila Amolo Odinga to go back to the street, go back to the roads. Especially Gachagua made those remarks. So that's why I'm saying that people like EKURU AUKOT should not even be allowed to this debate. They should just be spectators, just like I said, David Mwaure should be a spectator. The same way to EKURU AUKOT. EKURU AUKOT should be a spectator, ladies and gentlemen. Kindly share what your observations are below the comment section. And once again, I'd like to urge you, any visitor, any viewer who is watching this video, to please consider supporting this channel by subscribing to it. If you have not subscribed, please just hit the subscribe button. Also, don't forget to hit the like button. So as usual, I'd like to urge you to stay safe and stay blessed until we catch up again in our next analysis.